every day. And she is my teacher, my mentor, my mother. Um, she doesn't lie.
Mm.
She doesn't speak English, but her messages are clear if one takes the time to listen. And she's my North Star. Yeah.
Got it. Well, if I may, Natalie, I'd like to start it up officially, and you may or may not have noticed I've just turned on the recording button for this session, and I should first and foremost, you're likely to be the only person that's going to be here. It's fine.
Why is that?
I That's a whole nother conversation we can have later.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I want to just give you a reassurance and also give you an opportunity to ask questions or just get clear what is the nature of this presentation and this time together. And so, right up front, I wanted to mention that I'm turning on the recorder.
Yep, that's fine.
And I also wanted to give you the assurance that if there is at any point in our time together something that you would rather not have uh, played as the recording is posted on my YouTube channel, just say the word.
Okay.
Any piece of content that you would like changed or removed, um, just say the word.
Okay.
Fair enough?
Yep.
Okay. All
I
right.
would have gotten dressed up if I'd known I was going to be the only one.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
This is a fancy joint after all.
I know. I know. Well, it is
Oh,
what it is.
so I'm going to open it up in podcast fashion and just introduce some of the flow of what to look forward to here. And I would gladly invite you to check in. I will be checking in just, a brief minute or two of where we find ourselves as we approach being in this space together, holding space for each other, and also unfolding some new announcements for this work, and also to put our toes in the water for some of this work during our brief time together.
All
So here we go.
right.
All right. Welcome. This is the Poetry of Predicament podcast. It's a YouTube channel podcast that I've presented for the past 10 years here in the space that is often called the Collapse-Aware or Collapse-Acceptant community space. And that is indeed the audience that this all of this podcast and all of the work of a little organization that we call Living Resilience has been designed and built for, is to support the collapse aware and collapse acceptant communities around the world. And yeah, again, 10 years. It's been a pretty good run. It's a number of things. It's support groups, one of which is best known is the Safe Circle calls that we do every Tuesday evening at 5 o'clock, 5 to 6:30 Pacific time. Um, and those are a drop-in style support group that it's just been a delight to have some folks stay at that for years of attendance weekly. And other times we'll have visitors for one or two sessions from somewhere from perhaps a foreign country or a foreign state.
Mm.
We also have a number of other support groups and study groups, in-depth, experiential based support groups One of them's called our community of practice, and that is intended to be the deepest and most experientially based presentation of our work. And it is the place where we really get to embody what we've been talking about in the other types of learning, from the online courses to the more drop-in style support groups to podcast interviews and so on. So this particular session, why I'm recording it, and thank you very much, Natalie, for joining me, for being someone to be on the receiving end of some of this information, and then also a co-participant in other parts of what we're going to do. This session is really marks for me quite a dramatic threshold or border that we're crossing. We just completed a year-long program called Islands of Sanity in a Mad World. And that program was 2 live Zoom sessions each month for actually turned out to be 13 months. And those Saturday sessions were exactly the time that this is being recorded, 7 to 8 a.m. Is the first session. Then we take a brief break, and then usually 8:30 to 9:30, or sometimes as late as 8:30 to 10 in the morning on this first or third Saturday in each month. We're going to continue those Saturday sessions, and we're no longer going to be having this year-long thing to keep track of. There have been the recordings of the Zoom calls, and each month has had a month of really a very brief stack of course material, videos, articles, and for me, most importantly, content that's built to evoke our heart, to bring forth our soul. And I know that these can be quite loaded words, and what do I mean, and so on. What I can tell you briefly is that this is not a religious use of the word soul. I'm just not a religious person. I won't be offering that in any of my offerings with any expertise because I just don't live there. My version of soul comes from my one of my mentors in terms of all things about grief and soul, and he puts them together in quite a gorgeous way. His name is Francis Weller, and yeah, remarkable human being, and he's
Yes.
been very, very productive in this past couple of years as he's been turning over much of his, especially group-oriented grief work, which is for me the most powerful grieving experience and healing grieving experience that I've ever known. And he's been turning that over to his new team of youngsters coming up, and they're gorgeous. Every one of them has their own flavor of beauty as they take on that lineage. Um, I'm going to slow down now because I find myself in kind of wanting to get it all in and ex express quickly, and it really doesn't serve because this work doesn't go well with the usual rapid fire pace of presentation and coursework and so on. This is the work of embodiment. This is the work of reclaiming our soul, repopulating our soul, reoccupying our soul, and all of that to be some kind of balance to the business as usual global culture, which I wish I had other words for it that were softer, but appears quite solidly to be self-terminating. I don't know how else to look at it these days. There's not a glowy, happy, smiley face I can put on this. And so the people that tend to be collapse aware or perhaps advanced to a sense of collapse acceptance, we we have kind of a remarkable similarity, no matter which country we're coming from around the world, that we have a tendency to just tell it like it is, like we really perceive it, with accurate perception of what's going on in the world. But if you're new to this topic, and which we're going to get to in just a few moments, about if you're new or if you've had a lot of experience, how does it fit in this work and so on. But if you're new to this, it can seem like, well, we're, we're often called doomers. It's not a very pleasant way to address people. I don't care for it much. Um, I like to often call it just being a realist.
Hmm.
And something again, if you're new to this possible community, you might want to be interested in reaching out and connecting with either collapse awareness or collapse acceptance. I think you might also find that there's a deep appreciation that starts to ripen in a person in this realism, in this um, more accurate perception of what's actually going on in the world. And in a moment, Natalie, I would really appreciate it if you would check in, because I know that you've been, well, I'm assuming, given how you briefly introduced yourself a few minutes ago, you've been around this topic for quite a while.
Hmm.
You've been involved with the work of um, inviting people into a more direct perception of what's actually going on, and
Hmm.
then inviting them to expand their toolkit, if you will, their inner toolkit
Hmm.
of how do we handle this? How do we how do I expand my capacity to be present? How do I expand? I'm making up these words, so I'm expecting you to set me straight when you check in. But it also seems like the work that reconnects expands our capacity to be of service to those we love,
Hmm.
where I wouldn't if I weren't willing to take on that accurate perception of what's going on out in the world and what's
Hmm.
going on inside of myself, and perhaps most importantly, with what's happening for those I love. So again, I'll just wrap up this little mention that I'm putting out here for the folks who might be new to this topic, new to these notions of collapse acceptance and collapse awareness, that there is a beauty in my experience. There's a beauty behind all of what's going on,
Hmm.
all of the insanity, all of the really horrific loss that I'm seeing in my view going on in the world. And it is truly a privilege to be in a loosely knit community of folks around the world, each of whom has their own view of what there is that's being lost. It's being
Hmm.
um, literally just taken from our experience, ripped from the fabric that we've called normal up till now. And yet, I also know that these are people I can sit in circle with. I can hold space for them. They can hold space for me as we also dive into the beauty that is available at every moment during that loss, during that grief. So, with that introduction to this work, a little bit to this session, Natalie, thank you so much for being here. And I'm wondering if you would give us a little check in of introducing yourself as much as you'd like to, and if you would include a little bit of what has you be in a session like this on a day like today?
Okay. Well, I received this session in my email this morning. I get your emails. I must have signed up at some point, but I have not attended anything with you. And so, as often happens with me, that saying that when the student is ready, the teacher appears, things just land. And I've learned to not ignore them when that happens in that synchronous way.
Mhm.
Um, so I decided to log on and see what it was about. I'm retired. I've done many things in my life. The most recent was home care. I was a PT. I did home care for many years, and then I worked in a nursing home, and then I retired. So I was in healthcare. Glad to be out of it right now, the way things are. Very happy to be retired. But that has given me the freedom to explore spirituality. I too am not religious, but I consider myself, I am very interested in soul and the progression of soul and what soul is trying to tell each of us at this time and how to ripen. You use that word. Francis Weller uses that word also a lot, and I really like that. This time of year, I'm in Massachusetts, it's fall, and this is my favorite time of year because it is the time when things in the natural world appear to be dying. They're not, they're just surrendering to the next season and concentrating their energies deeper down in their roots, which I feel is something I am doing now.
Mhm.
It's a very bittersweet, again, time of year. Um, Leave takings more than beginnings, seemingly, but it's a time to go within. It's a time to really deepen everything and to take the time as it becomes darker to really go within and connect with soul, connect with spirit, connect with whatever you believe in, if anything at all. And for me, that kind of connecting is also a very good antidote to the craziness in the outer world, the busyness, the noise, the cacophony that surrounds us and swirls and keeps us off balance. So I appreciate this time of year. As I said, I am a student of the work that reconnects. I'm a facilitator of the work that reconnects. I also spent the past 2 years in Seminary of the Wild Earth. So that was very much a deepening process for me. And I just finished Francis Weller's second book. I love his work. I feel very called to find a way to do that work in my own community because I think it's really important for people to have spaces and rituals where they can come together in community and share their grief. Everyone has grief right now, and that is not going to get any better. That will only become more important in the times to come. So I have actually just started to work on a program that I want to offer along those lines. Um, and I also am a student of Daniel Four, ancestral lineage healing, ancestral medicine, and he has an offering called Tending the Need Fire, and it's kind of like a grief circle, but it's again going back to what all of our ancestors once did. Um, rituals for coming of age, rituals for childbirth, rituals for dead and dying, rituals for everything. And we've lost that. We're so disconnected in our culture in this country. But all of us, if we were to go back far enough, have people who were steeped in the land and in those practices. And I really think it's important for us to explore that find ways to get back to that, create new, not to go back to the old ones, but to create new ones, to create rituals that are alive and relevant and for these times.
Mhm.
So I'm really curious about that.
Mhm.
And I am, as I said, I am excited to be here. I am excited to be living through these times. I believe that I chose to be here now,
Mhm.
and to see what it is. And one thing that Francis Weller said is that all of us, probably, we're in the long dark. He calls this period of time the long dark, and we will not live to be out of it. We're on our way down. Uh, But what we can do is plant seeds that might have to go deep within the ground and stay there for their own safety, but they will be there when the time comes to start rebuilding.
Mhm.
And I find that such a beautiful idea and such a privilege. That means that we all have something we can do. And if you have something you can do, then you don't feel powerless and helpless.
Beautiful. Hmm. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
I'm curious where you live.
I live in Massachusetts.
Ah.
That's another thing that I'm working on now. I grew up in a town that was 20 miles west of Plymouth, where the Pilgrims landed.
Mhm.
So I feel a call to that land, the land that raised me, and the land where the genocide that formed this country began. And I know that some of my relatives were probably part of that. So I'm really interested in exploring that more and finding out the true history and finding ways to heal the land that I grew up on. That's a new exploration.
Yeah.
I think that's important. I think it's possible to heal old, old, old wounds, both
Mm.
in people and in places. And I think that's important.
It's when you shared that the work of an author that I appreciate so much, and I know that she's far more than an author, but I just haven't been in any of her live work. I believe her name is Trebi Johnson. Does that
Yes, 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 she does that work.
seems like
Beautiful.
that's right
Yeah,
in that zone?
yes, yes, yeah.
Beautiful. Natalie, thank you for checking in. Really appreciate it. Hmm. I think a good way to have all of us be able to come along in the flow of this session is to say a bit more about this idea of being new to the whole topic of what I often say as the human-caused collapse of both Earth and human systems, which I'm fairly clear that this is what collapse looks like. It's not some apocalyptic gray clouds everywhere and zombies going down the street. This is how it looks to
Mhm.
have a society collapse. And wanted to mention that in the 10 years that I've been putting this work out, whether it's the podcast interviews or it's the special focus series about particular parts of what it is to study our situation, whether it's the support groups, the online drop-in style support group, like our Safe Circle calls, or it's the online coursework that I was just describing a few moments ago about the year-long course that
Mm,
we just completed called Islands of Sanity in a Mad World. Um, there have been there have been more changes and evolutionary growth steps in creating this curriculum than any other type of training work that I've ever done. And really, my history is providing um, co-facilitated transformation-based training work for a wide range of audiences. Sometimes it's corporate executives who want to be more effective at what they do. Sometimes it's community development programs, including youth at risk programs. So to give you young people a profound set of tools to be able to do that kind of inner work
mhm,
that we were talking about before you were checking in, Natalie, how to become more and more present to the world around us and the world within us, even in the face of larger and larger stressors. And I can tell you that there's not much more inspiring than to see a gang kid from some rough neighborhood in the UK or the US to be able to unfold themselves and to start to see that there are immensely powerful presences that they can choose from within themselves, and
mhm,
not just the gangster, not just the addict, not just the person who is physically violent with others, and on and on.
mm.
It's quite extraordinary, and it's been that was challenging enough to create curriculum for, to have it be something that was engaging and something that people could hear and actually start to work with in their lives, rather than something that's too psychological or too um,
Intellectual.
complex and difficult to really get a handle on. What does this mean to me? I live in East LA.
Mm,
What?
mm,
And so I thought that was a challenging stretch of my career. And I had no idea what was coming, which is to try and offer an experiential and transformation based body of training and coaching and support circle generating, uh, and to have it be somehow, again, hearable, accessible, something that someone can take on at whatever scale is available in them,
mm,
and to have it be useful the next day.
mm,
Been a challenge, and
mm.
especially it's been a challenge. Uh, Thank you for hearing in advance for hearing this again, Natalie. I'm going to just mention that I self-published a book in 2017 called The Impossible Conversation about this very topic of human-caused collapse of both Earth and human systems. And and the most the two biggest elements that have demanded the continued evolutionary shifting and changing and developing of the curriculum. One is the extraordinary expression of domination and power of those who have the wealth and the control and the power on this planet.
Mhm.
And of course, you'd have to be living in a cave to not know that since January of 2025, we've had the most extraordinary global presence of a dictator, of a authoritarian governance. And I just never before has it been global scale.
Mm,
And it has changed us all. It continues to change us all. Sometimes as frequently as daily,
mhm,
is what I'm asserting. And if the human system was having a hard time 30 years ago getting their head around the idea that, maybe the pollution from our use of fossil fuels is going to be doing existential damage to the planet and to us. Hmm, that's that was difficult. That continued to be difficult, and we continued to do absolutely nothing about it except intensify our use of those fossil fuels for all those 30 years. We seem to be a bit ill-equipped in terms of the capacity to actually be present to what's going on and then actually choose to do something about it on almost any scale. So that has been one of the biggest challenges of offering this work. The best I have come up with is to keep finding people who have something to say or share from
mm,
their own experience of how to become um, a bit more wise each day by being present to what's going on in my life,
mhm,
how to expand my capacity to be present in the face of larger and larger stressors, how to be of service to the people I love when I am fully stretched in every conceivable way to just be functional in my daily life.
mhm,
These are big questions, and I find them best answered by the people who are really engaging in those questions.
mhm,
So I've been interviewing for quite some time now, far fewer experts and far more of the people that I encounter who really do have something to say and share
mm,
from a hard won day by day living into those questions. So that's a long-winded way of inviting folks who are new to this conversation to understand that, sure, there will be some experts, there will be some books offered and some videos to suggested to watch so that you can get a grounding in what's going on in that particular domain. But more than anything right now, this is the realm of really being present in our bodies, present in our relationships, present in our communities, present with our experience of the web of life, of what is it to live on this earth.
mhm.
We've been missing the cue for, we've, as the folks in the UK like to say, we've lost the plot with regard with regard to living on a planet, having a singular habitat that we all share. We have severely lost the plot. It is not a part of human consciousness at scale. And that is clearly at the core of what has us be self-terminating right now. So I'm throwing around these kind of heavy terms from time to time. If you're new to this conversation, you're probably noticing that when I say self-terminating, that can be, whoa. When I say doomer, whoa. When I say existential, yikes. So I'd like to just very briefly give you a sense that there are a few layers uh, here in living resilience that hopefully will be useful for wherever a person is entering into this work. Um, Much like the work that reconnects, I find that to be one of the most gentle, inclusive, and invitational spaces. And it was actually the only piece of work I could find when um, I've had kind of an odd history with this whole self-terminating global culture conversation. I've been at it since I was 15 years old. And when I started to write my book, just 2015, I was looking for anybody who was offering any kind of work that could address what I was seeing as I was writing the book about our self-terminating culture. And the work that reconnects uh, was the only piece of work I could find.
Mm.
And I thankfully had participated in the work, I don't know, 10 years before, and had a slightly different focus then, but it was all the same inner awareness and inner work, and gorgeous. And it is very much my intention to always have a gentle and invitational offering. I aspire to something as well produced and long standing as the work that reconnects. And in fact, one of my offerings is an adapted version of a series of podcasts that Joanna Macy, the founder of the work that reconnects, did before she died not too long ago.
Mhm.
Gorgeous set of podcast episodes, each one a gift, standing on its own, each one, I don't know, half hour long or so,
Mhm.
is just a gorgeous opportunity to explore with the host and with Joanna, both of whom are just gorgeous, just have this presence and this openness, inviting us all to dive into the conversation. So their 10-part series of We Are the Great Turning,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I've adapted that to a program that could then bridge people into the more experiential work that we
Mhm.
do here in Living Resilience. So I'm thrilled to be offering that as one of the introductory doorways into this work. And I think that's all I'm going to say. There'll be links to each of the. Hello, Richard.
Hi.
We are midstream, and I'm just going to continue my description of the introductory offerings of
Oh, yeah, I just
resilience.
wanted to tell you, I didn't get any email this morning from you, except I happened to check my junk email folder and it was in there.
Okay, so please, I hope you'll correct the junkness.
Yeah, I don't know why that doesn't usually happen, but it did with this one. I don't know. Anyway, I just found it, so
Okay.
hi.
All right, so welcome here, and we're just kind of getting a sense of what's on offer for not only people who are brand new to the
Right.
conversation of collapse awareness, but also for people who might be long time engaged in the collapse aware conversation and might need a little rest from the intensity because the intensity has been going up for years now, year on year. And this
Yeah.
year, I've never seen anything like it. And
No.
what I can say about these two offerings, the one I was just describing, primarily speaking from Joanna Macy, the other one is a book from one of the main volunteer coordinators of what's called the Deep Adaptation Forum.
Mhm.
Deep adaptation is a paper written by Professor Jem Bendell from the UK, and it was a one of those viral hits that came on. I think it was in 2017. I'm sorry, I'm not remembering, but it spread around the world like wildfire. And he, from his academic and non-governmental organization background at the UN and so on, um, he just put together his particular take on what it is to be in a world that is being taken down by the global industrial culture. And his suggestion, in light of that exploration, is that we could take on deep adaptation, not just adaptation like building a seawall around Manhattan so that it survives the rising seawater. Let's call that physical adaptation. And what Professor Jem Bendell talks about is a deep adaptation. How do we do the inner work that would prepare us for this kind of immense collapse of both Earth and human systems? So that's deep adaptation. And this second introductory offering that we have here as a like an intro course to how to be with collapse is from one of the lead volunteers there in the Deep Adaptation Forum, which again, the link will be in the show notes if you want to go find out about that space. It is quite gorgeous. They do a really beautiful job. And this person who wrote a book called The Eye of the Storm, her name is Terry LePage. And this course is, we used to do a book club here in Living Resilience. And a couple of years back, we focused on Terry's book, The Eye of the Storm. And as you might recall, The Eye of the Storm is renowned to be much calmer than the storm itself. It is a place of possible rest, of possible presence instead of being terrified or slammed by the storm itself. And what I can tell you briefly about Terry's book is that I found it enchanting and inspiring, and I learned quite a bit from her book, even though it is for folks who are entering into this conversation. And it is in a far gentler style, certainly, than I talk about these issues. And I found myself able to relax into this conversation, not into complacency at all, but I could see myself engaging with these horrific issues in a way that was far more gentle and far more inclusive of letting those emotions occur, but not having them disable me or not letting them ramp up my tension. And so I'm going to leave that conversation about that introduction of these introductory courses in living resilience there with those two offerings. And again, all the links to these various things I'm talking about will be in the show notes. And I'm wondering if we could just take another moment. Richard, perhaps you could just do a mini check-in, including, where you're from and how you're connected with this work, and maybe just a little bit about, what has you be here in a conversation like this, in programs like this. Because Natalie and I have checked in a while back, and I'm wondering if I could ask of both of you to just speak a little bit about how it's been for you to step by step engage with this global existential, uh, sometimes called the polycrisis. How has it been for you to step closer and closer to the core of it over time? Natalie, would you like to?
Sure. Um, all of the people you mentioned, I'm familiar with.
Yeah.
And your comment on the islands of sanity reminds me of Margaret Wheatley's work.
Mhm.
She mentions that. I think for me, maybe the most helpful thing for me in this progression, well, there are two things. I came to Joanna's work first, and the thing that really drew me in was her statement that anyone can be an activist. Up until then, I had thought that, activists were these rabid people with the signs and, protesting and all of that. And that is not me. That's just, there's a place for that. And I appreciate the people who do it, but that is not my way. And from her, I learned that there are many ways to contribute. There are many ways to be resistant, and there are many ways to be helpful. And in her work, she calls this time the Great Unraveling, which obviously is happening. So, business as usual, the Great Unraveling, and the Great Turning, the three parts, and they're all happening simultaneously. And the Great Turning is what will happen to either get us out of this or not. Um, the ending, the old story that we all grew up with, that we counted on, that we thought gave us a sense of purpose and following the rules and knowing what we could expect, is gone. So we're in limbo, and the new story isn't here yet. The new story will be what we write. So this is a very difficult time of being in not knowing, which I think for most of us, I know for myself, is very difficult. Not knowing, feeling like I am always standing on shifting sands and I have to keep adjusting myself constantly to stay upright. It's very unsettling. But for me, a turning point was just coming to a place of acceptance. I accept that we're in collapse. I don't know how it will look. I don't know how it will unfold. I don't know what, if anything, will be the end result. But to just go into a state of acceptance and surrender, which is not giving up, it's different. And then from that point to look around, to still be grateful for all the beauty that is still here for me to enjoy, including humans, and to go from there and to see how I can be of service. What can I save? What can I hospice? What can I work with others to bring into being that's new, that will be helpful? And so that, her definition of hope too, it's not just hoping things will get better and not doing anything about it. It's being active and being willing to get into the trenches and work towards something better, something that will be of use. So I think acceptance, which does not come easy, and
Mm.
not being in control, which is even more difficult for me.
Mhm.
But just being in that, just it's a more flowing at ease kind of feeling that is easier for me to live on a daily basis. I can't always be angry or always upset or always in fear. No one can be. You have to find a place where you just have where you can land and live from that place. And that's what's helping me. And then trying to give that to others. And the other thing that I love about her work is that she really goes for the heart. We've been listening to scientists for years, and all that scary stuff that's backed up has not made us change anything. You have to find a way, I think, to make people fall back in love with life and with the earth and with what we have here. Because we protect what we love.
Mhm.
We don't protect what we don't love or we don't understand. So it all starts there, cracking the heart open and being willing to allow yourself to be cracked open and feel all those feelings and then come from there. That's the key. That's the essence of all of this for me. Yeah.
Oh,
Beautiful.
that's beautiful.
Thank you. Richard, would you like to just check in briefly and introduce yourself and then mention whatever you will about how has it been for you to step by step approach the core of what's going on?
Sure. Um, yeah, well, I'm Richard. I live in Texas, a very red state with a lot
Mm.
of horrible policies. But that's where I live now and have for quite a while. And my partner and I, Darlene, well, yeah, we both have been here for a long time. But anyway, yeah, I grew up spending a lot of time out in nature, and I even got the nickname Nature Boy in school and other places, and it was not a compliment. I mean, it was not meant as a compliment, you know. And so, I've done a lot of work in environmental education and kind of had this two-track life in the sense that I was always involved with nature and the environment, but I also got real involved with counseling and therapy and psychology and all that stuff. So I've been following both those tracks. And so, both from the ecological standpoint and the psychological standpoint, what's been developing over the last 30 years or so, is like the downfall of the environmental movement and people reverting, seems like people are reverting to this very primitive kind of way of being in the world, with all the violence and all the hate and racism and all kinds of horrible shit. So, I mean, for me, it's been really agonizing. Dean and I have talked about this before, but I mean, there was a brief period of time, like in the 70s and into the 80s, when things were actually moving in some positive directions. I mean, there were some good things happening. The Civil Rights Movement and Voting Rights Act, and I mean, Jesus, we started the EPA. I mean, we started the environmental movement here in this country, and now we've turned around and destroyed it, destroyed it basically. But it's and part of my interest in psychology and everything, I've been through a lot of heart opening. That's why I resonated with what you said, Natalie. I've been through a lot of heart opening kind of therapies and workshops and programs and this and that. And they really helped me a lot and really did open up my heart. So, when I have my heart open to everything that's going on, it's extremely painful. I mean, it's very, hmm. I mean, it's really beyond disturbing. It's just like, sort of like tear my hair out kind of feeling. So, yeah, I'm struggling with the acceptance part. I'm getting there slowly, and I just feel like, we've kind of set our course. Humanity has set our course, and little changes can happen in that course, but the overall course is kind of set, and it's not in a good way. It's set in a really negative and destructive way right now. I mean, I don't think that's our long-term fate, but I think the short term looks pretty bad. So I'm really kind of struggling with the acceptance part right now because, I know that, just not, 20, 30 years ago, we were actually in a much more positive place in many ways, I think. And I know, it's painful to know that that's really possible, and yet it's not happening. We're reverting to older, more primitive, crappy behaviors and beliefs and all that. So, um, I'm trying to keep my heart open during all this and stay stay present and stay conscious and loving and but I am I mean, there's a part of me that just is so resistant to all the ridiculous bullshit that's going on. It's so I don't know. I don't even know what to say about it anymore. It's just way over the top. And of course, with Trump and everything the MAGA people are doing now, it's like, verging on, not even verging, it's turning into tyranny, and it's all just very dark. I mean, I really resonate with that idea that Francis Weller has, calling it the long dark. I mean, it feels
Mm.
like we're stuck in the long dark. And I don't know, unfortunately, I don't really see any end in sight in the near future. So, um, I mean, it's weird. I have a lot of hope for individual consciousness and human transformation because I've experienced a lot of it. Dean's experienced a lot of it. Sounds like you've experienced a lot of it, Natalie. So I know it's possible, but most people just aren't going there and aren't willing to do that, and so we're stuck on this horrendous path. Um, I don't know. Does that kind of give? I guess that gives the picture of where I'm at.
Yeah.
It's all hard. It's really painful.
Francis Weller also calls this period a hard initiation. We're going
Yeah.
through a hard initiation, and that makes sense to
Oh
me.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
For
Are you
sure.
familiar with Bill Plotkin's work?
What's the
Bill
name?
Plotkin. Bill Plotkin.
No.
He wrote a book called Soulcraft. He runs Animas Valley Institute in
Oh, okay.
Colorado, and he says that the problem is that humanity basically, and particularly in Western cultures, we're fixated in the early adolescence stage. We have never grown up,
Right. Yep. I think that's
and the
true.
lack of rituals that
Right.
other cultures once had contributes to that. We certainly act like, I would say, toddlers. I don't even give us credit for being
I
adolescents.
would agree with you there
Maybe
too.
being
Yeah.
generous, but
I
that
know.
that really intrigues me. I think he's onto something there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know. And I think Trump is our toddler in chief.
Oh my God. The toddler in chief, right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the guy's he's such a baby.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough on that. I don't want to get started on Trump. I've
Yeah,
done a
let's
lot of
not.
analysis of Trump. I've even done astrological analysis of Trump, and unfortunately, his chart shows exactly the kind of person he's actually turned out to be. And it's
Yeah.
all right there in his chart. It's amazing.
He's a Gemini? He's
He
a Gemini.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. But
All
he also
right.
has Mars rising, the planet of aggression and war. Mars rising in his chart, so that's his most powerful planet. Unfortunately for us. Oh well. Jesus.
Yikes.
Anyway,
Well, what I'd like to do is draw a line between the first session, and if you both are able and interested, I would love to have you come back after, say, a 15-minute break.
hmm,
And I'm suggesting that instead of the up to 90 minutes that the second session often takes when we're in the flow of a course,
right.
there's no need to do that. But I would very much like to get both of your perspectives on, if we could say that this first hour or so has been about the introductory step of
Hmm.
someone being introduced to this polycrisis, to this notion that we are a self-terminating global culture, and how that can be so easily overwhelming. In moments, a person can be overwhelmed in their first day of being involved with this conversation. So we've talked about a few different offerings here in living resilience, and how a person who needs that kind of softer, gentler inclusion and introduction to the space And and some of us who've been around this conversation for a while need also a respite, a place to go in where we can still be engaged, but there's a sense of being held and a sense of less edge, less edginess to it, less urgency, because that is exhausting. We can't be urgent all the time. And I want to reassure the folks who are new to the conversation that that is certainly not our point here at all, but it is to become more and more present in the face of larger and larger stressors. And for this, after about a 10 or 15-minute break here, I would like to ask each of us to come back with one particular aspect of this poly crisis that we're facing that really has your attention these days.
Hmm.
Just and there's purpose to it. This is not just another doom scrolling round of exchanging bad news. It's really meant to say some version or another of what is challenging you, what's challenging your capacity to be present. You know, is it the brutality and cruelty of ICE? Is it the complete annihilation of environmental programs in the USA? The list goes on. You please just choose one
Yeah.
that's alive for you,
All right.
and we'll explore that a little bit in the name of, again, for the new folks who might be watching these two sessions. Um, for them to get a sense of some of the inner work that the three of us, as just exemplars in this moment, of what it's like to be engaging in the inner work that we know we need to do because we've hit another limit to our capacity. That's been happening almost on a daily basis for me. And I'll let you all speak for yourselves when we get back from the break. But I would like to do that so that people could get a sense of this is one way that one training group or one service provider in this space is suggesting that people can come together and share
Right.
their practices, share their limits, share what has assisted them in expansion to include more and also to still be of service instead of being incapacitated. So, anything that either of you'd like to say before we take why don't we do a 10-minute break? Is
You
that
want to come back like at 10, for me it would be 10:20. That's 12 minutes from now. How's that 10:20? Or
sure? So 20
8:20
minutes
or
past
whatever
the
it is.
hour.
What are we doing? 10 minutes? 15 minutes?
We're going to come back at 20 minutes past the hour.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I can do that. All right. Good. And just check in with the same, yeah. Okay. Sure. All right. See you guys in 11 minutes now.
Very
All
good.
right.
Bye.
Bye.